It's been a whirlwind couple of months in the political space. President Trump miraculously survived an assassination attempt, Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race, and Kamala Harris appears to have taken center stage as the Democratic Party's candidate for the presidential race. There has been no shortage of drama in 2024, and all of the candidates have been making interesting policy proposals lately. So, what are we going to do? Today, I want to discuss one of Trump's most interesting tax changes that he promised recently if he was elected president. It has to do with tips, and I know that you care about your money. So let's dive in. All right, what did he say about tips? During his acceptance speech from the Republican nomination at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, former President Donald Trump said that as a part of his economic relief plan, he would completely eliminate taxes on tips.
At the center of our plan for economic relief are massive tax cuts for workers that include something else that's turned out to be very popular, actually. It's called no tax on tips. No tax on tips.
Now, there are a wide variety of workers who receive a significant portion of their income in tips, and this includes servers, bartenders, busboys, caddies, hairdressers, cab drivers, maids, baristas, tattoo artists, casino dealers, you name it. For some of these workers, such as servers in restaurants, tips actually make up the vast majority of their wages. Oftentimes, servers are paid just a few dollars per hour by the restaurant they work in, and customers leave tips that make up the rest of their wages. So if tips were no longer taxed, it would mean that anyone who earned some or all of their wages through tips would dramatically be able to reduce their tax bill, and it would be a complete game changer for many of these people. But how would Trump's tax cuts for tips actually work? It is difficult to say exactly how Trump's proposed tax elimination for tips will work yet, because he has not yet won the election, and he has not signed a bill into law that eliminates taxes on tips or gives us instructions on how to approach it. However, how it will most likely work is that tipped workers would still be required to report tipped income, and they would simply get a tax deduction that would remove tipped income from taxable income. To understand how this works, let's look at an example. Okay, let's say that you're a bartender and you make about $20,000 in hourly wages paid by the restaurant, but you make an additional $50,000 in tips every year. In this case, you would report the full $70,000. However, instead of being taxed on $70K of income, you would only be taxed on $20,000 of income, because you would get a tax deduction for all of your tipped wages in this case, and the tax savings would be incredible. You would not only have $50,000 of your income become exempt from tax, but you would also move down into a lower tax bracket since your taxable income would be reduced by $50,000. So you would drop down from the 22% tax bracket all the way down to the 12%. For many tipped workers, this could literally mean that they save tens of thousands of dollars every single year in taxes, and the potential impact could be phenomenal. Although it is highly likely that the tens of millions of workers who earn tips in America will be supportive of not having to pay taxes on their tips, there are some who think that Trump's proposed elimination of taxes on tips would have a negative impact on the country. Opponents of Trump's new deduction for tipped wages claim that eliminating taxes on tips would result in a reduction of federal tax revenue by around $150 to $250 billion. They claim that this could force the government to raise taxes in other areas. However, as I discussed in another video that I recently published about Trump's new tax proposal, Trump is also considering increasing the amount of tariffs that we have in the United States. He even went as far as to say that he might abolish federal income taxes entirely in favor of tariffs. So, what are tariffs? Tariffs are taxes that the government levies on imported goods and services. Tariffs make imported goods and services more expensive, but we do not necessarily have to pay them. You can choose to buy American-made products or potentially just reduce your spending. So even if Trump does away with the $150 to $250 billion in tax revenue by eliminating tips, he could potentially make up for it by placing tariffs on certain imported goods. But could the government spend less money? Now, another potential budgeting solution to a loss of tax revenue is to simply have the government spend less money. There are sources that claim that the government wastes all the kinds of money that we provide them. For example, an oversight report from Senator Rand Paul claimed that the government recently wasted $900 billion. Rand Paul claimed that the government wastes money in many different ways, such as spending $1.7 billion on maintaining empty buildings. In this report, Rand Paul asserted that the government even wasted money by giving COVID-era Paycheck Protection Program funds to scammers who used Barbie dolls as ID photos on their PPP loan applications. It's not just Rand Paul who has been claiming that the government is wasting epic amounts of money. You probably even feel like this as an American citizen. According to the Government Accountability Office, improper payments, which are payments that are made incorrectly by the government, cost the United States government $247 billion in the year of 2022 alone. It is estimated that U.S. government has lost over $2.4 trillion in simple payment errors over the last 2 decades. So yes, eliminating taxes on tips could potentially cost the government $150 to $250 billion in tax revenue. However, if the government's accountability office report is accurate, then the government is already wasting 10 to 20 times the amount by simply making payment errors on a regular basis. I have only talked about some of the money the government is wasting here. I haven't even mentioned how much the government spends by propping up failed banks or investing in foreign wars. I'm not even going to dive into all of that in this video, but I will save that for another video. The point that I'm trying to make here is that there are other ways to help balance the budget that don't involve raising taxes or maintaining high taxes. We can also curb government spending and reduce the amount of money that the government wastes through payment errors, falling victim to fraud, or spending the US taxpayer dollars unwisely. But is Trump's tax proposal just a clever campaign move? Think about it for a second. He's going for re-election. During his speech at the RNC, Trump claimed that his idea to eliminate taxes on tips came about after he had a discussion with a server at the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. The waitress told Trump that she and her fellow servers were getting absolutely crushed on tip taxes and asked him if he could help. So Trump apparently felt bad about how the waitresses and waiters were getting treated from a tax perspective and decided to eliminate taxes on tips to try to make life easier for them and other tipped workers. However, not everyone is convinced that Trump simply chose to do this out of the goodness of his heart. Others feel that this was a clever attempt to win over millions of tipped workers to vote for him in this upcoming election while minimally affecting the federal budget. More than a third of tipped workers already pay no federal income taxes due to having low annual earnings, and taxes on tips make up very small percentages of federal tax revenue. We may never know exactly what Trump's motivation was for this tip proposal, but it is safe to say that eliminating taxes for tips could help provide a substantial amount of tax relief for millions of tipped workers. And yes, it is also possible that many of these people who have not decided who they will vote for could potentially do so by voting for Trump now that he made this proposal. So how could taxes on tips affect other jobs? If a bill is ultimately passed that eliminates taxes on tips, it could motivate more people who are working other jobs to try to obtain a tip job. For example, a man who is making $70,000 a year as a teacher and paying full taxes might try to swap a career to become a bartender and only pay taxes on a fraction of his income. Jobs where people earn tips could soon become a whole lot more popular than they are currently. It is also possible that workers may start asking their employers if they can receive a portion of their salary as tips. There could be a number of different tax strategies that could get created as a result of this proposal. I myself am curious to see exactly how this is going to happen and how soon this could happen. I'm also curious to see what you guys think about this entire proposal. Trump has made a lot of tax proposals over the years, and I have done a couple of videos to highlight them. But what are your thoughts? Also, let me know, who do you think will win this upcoming election? Do you think it will be Harris? Do you think it will be Trump? I want to know. Remind me if you're interested in learning more about tax strategy by clicking on the links below in the description. Go ahead and schedule a consultation with my team. My community is jam-packed with other business owners and creators, courses and descriptions on how to leverage the tax code. We have over 450 people inside of our community already. Go ahead and click on the links below. If you're somebody that wants to continue to learn from me, I look forward to teaching you on this channel. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you so much, and cheers.